So I'm Brent, the average wine guy from Savvy Cellar. I'm very excited to have a special guest here, Jim Milone from Terra Savia. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
And first off, let's get right to Terra Savia. Tell me about this winery and this project that you've got going.
Well, Terra Savia means wise earth, and essentially what we have is a wine program where we're producing all our wines from our estate vineyards, Sanel Valley Vineyards, which are organically grown grapes. The wise earth aspect of Terra Savia sort of indicates our general philosophy of being thoughtful in our choices of how we farm, how we produce our wines, and how we present our wines, right from the vine to the end consumer.
So how long has the winery been around?
Terra Savia started in 2005, and it started as a combination of philosophies of ownership from Switzerland, who was actually interested in the olive oil business, and purchased a ranch from me where I'd been growing grapes for 4 generations, and when we started our wine brand with that vineyard, and that's where the Terra Savia wine brand came into being.
So tell me a little bit about the organic. You talked about the smart earth philosophy. Could you kind of expand upon that and explain what that means to you in practice and principle?
Mainly in practice in the vineyard is where it starts, and it starts with a certain level of patience in the vineyard of sort of letting Mother Nature take its course. For instance, in certain areas of the vineyard we may see development of some pests, dust mites for instance, that will start to eat the foliage in the vineyard. In a standard conventional practice, people might go out with pesticides and immediately start to eradicate, this particular insect. In our situation, because of our strong bird populations and other insects, we kind of just sit back and wait and see what happens, and we may lose foliage on a certain portion of the vineyard, but as long as it's not drastic, we let that nature take its course. And other insects, what we call the friendly insects, but they're all friendly, will come along and they will bring that population into balance eventually. But sometimes that takes a couple of seasons. If you are patient enough to let that happen, eventually you see this symbiotic relationship of all of these insects and rodents and all the other critters that live in your vineyard bring things into a balance, and then we try to just live with that balance and know how much fruit we can produce and at what level of quality, and then produce wine from there.
And are there things when you find things kind of temporarily out of balance, are there things that you can do naturally to kind of accelerate that, or do you just merely have to be patient and hope that Mother Nature takes care of things?
Well, there are things that we can do naturally, but essentially the big difference between this type of farming and when I say conventional farming, sort of the new age farming of reactive farming, is that we have to be more proactive, and so our reliefs are not as immediate. We can't just go buy something in a can, throw it on the vineyard and alleviate a temporary problem. We have to look for longer, more cyclical solutions.
I see.
So that's where the patience comes in. We don't have immediate gratification. Our fertilization program, for instance, we compost every year in the vineyard.
Yeah.
It takes a good 5 to 7 years to see really strong results from a composting program.
Is that right?
With conventional nitrogen fertilizers, you can see a result in a couple of months.
Interesting.
So
foliage. You mentioned instant gratification. I desperately want to get to the wine.
This is the gratification.
Yeah, that's right. I will get some instant gratification momentarily, but I was curious to know actually more about the grapes. You mentioned olives and olive oil, but what about the grapes? What are you farming there, and what kind of wines are you producing?
Well, Sanel Valley Vineyards lies on a western benchland in the Hopland area. It's part of the Russian River watershed in southern Mendocino County, and we have sort of gravelly benchland soils and then a mixture of mountainous soils because we are in the mountains. The planting is Chardonnay for the whites, and then mainly we have Bordeaux varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. I have a tiny little bit of Pinot Noir that we make just for ourselves. But essentially what I've found after farming and making wine for this vineyard for over 30 years is what tends to do best are the Bordeaux varieties. So that really is our focus. However, we've been very, very pleased with the sparkling wine and the non-oak style Chardonnay that we've been able to produce from the vineyard
Terrific.
as well.
So, well, tell me a little bit about this sparkling wine before us.
This is our first effort. It's a Blanc de Blanc, made in a fairly dry style. We've produced it as more of a food wine. It was made in the traditional Méthode Champenois style of the French champagnes. And what we were looking for is subtle yeasty aromas, but a citrusy component, because that, again, is what the vineyard yields. And again, with my experience with the vineyard, I don't try to push the vineyard to places that it won't go.
I see.
So we're trying to style the wines to fit the ground. And so that's what we've done here. Very pleased, as you can see, with the bubbles or the mousse.
That's
Nice
beautiful.
fine bubbles, what you generally look for in a fine sparkling wine. Good strong bubbles, subtle aromas of yeast and citrus. Get a little bit of lemon peel out of there.
Yeah, I definitely am smelling the
Yeah.
lemon, and it smells dry to me. It doesn't have
Right.
kind of a overly yeasty or
No.
rich, but it smells very fruity and kind of fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm desperate to taste it, so I'm going to do that.
A little taste.
Ooh, wow, that is good.
Very
That-
clean on the palate.
Very clean,
Now, when I say
mouth-watering.
and when I say a food wine, you might not want to go with maybe acidy tomato type dishes or that
No.
kind of thing, but actually with cream sauces or salty foods, caviar, perfect match. for us.
Did you bring some of that?
I know I don't
No.
have any on me, but but it is a nice match.
Well, congratulations on
Thank
the
you.
first release. It's tremendous. I recommend that you go out and get some. And Jim, thank you very much for joining us. And cheers.
My pleasure. Cheers.